Hey, fans of Subject Found, this is Paul Sading. Please stay tuned after the episode for a very important message. This episode, Quinault, is brought to you by my patrons. Thank you for your incredible support of this show. It means the world to me.
It's just the excitement and the thrill, especially when you find that first bit of evidence, that footprint, or you hear that vocalization.
Subject Found is a series of found recordings from our extensive private collection. It contains some of the most mysterious and macabre files and recordings ever gathered, and we will release them for your consideration. We do not validate their claims, but share them to allow you to make up your own mind about who we are and what our collective, veritable truth actually is. Subject Found is a bi-weekly audio drama. Each episode is sequential, so if you haven't listened to the earlier episodes from this season, we encourage you to do so now so you don't miss anything. Last episode, Jared Strong met with Frank Hollenbeck, a touring retiree who had a strange encounter with a creature he didn't think existed. His encounter led Jared to a find that might set a new course for his investigation of Sasquatch.
Michael Shermer of Skeptics magazine once said, "The key to skepticism is to continuously and vigorously apply the methods of science to navigate the treacherous straits between know-nothing skepticism and anything-goes credulity." I can look at these pictures 1,000 times and I'm still amazed at what I captured. What started as a pretty ambiguous trip to Forks to meet an elderly tourist has possibly turned my investigation upside down. It might just have validated everything I've been doing for the last 20 years. Of course, I can't be sure just yet, but it could be a sign of what I've been looking for all along. I'm heading out to Quinault later this morning. Quinault is an unincorporated community in Grays Harbor County. Population of about 200, it's a place that could spend the expanse of eternity not existing as far as the rest of the world was concerned. But today it's the most important place in the world to me. More and more reports are coming in from the Quinault Indian Nation of Sasquatch being seen on the reservation. Far too many for me to ignore. Something tells me there's a reason for this much activity recently springing up. I need to get out there before skeptics taint the perception of the reports as something that's nothing more than collective delusion or correspondence bias. It's an hour-and-a-half drive from Olympia, so I need to get going, but first I need to get copies of these pictures to Peter. I can't wait to see what he thinks about them.
Good morning, sunshine. Getting an early start?
Don't you know it? I'm sorry for bugging you on a Sunday morning, but I thought you'd like to see these.
Are you kidding? From how you sounded on the phone, how could I not want to see them? I haven't heard anyone that excited since my kids believed in Santa. Come on in. Let me get you a coffee.
Thanks.
Let me shut that off. Want to set up at the table while I get you that coffee? Cream and sugar, right?
Yes, sir.
Those pictures came from Forks?
Yeah. I met a retired couple who were out on a hike along Eaton Creek, and the husband saw something cross a creek a few hundred yards from him.
Was it a squatch?
I don't like to jump too...
It's just us here, Jared. What are your thoughts?
Take a look at these.
Wow, these are great. Did you cast any of them?
3. They're in the car. Really impressive. I can bring them in later if you want to see them.
You bet I do. What other pictures did you take? I'm sure you aren't this spun up because of prints, no matter how good they are.
These.
Wow. Is this what I think it is?
That's why I wanted you to take a look at them. Is that not a nest?
Buddy, this is good. You sure it wasn't human-made?
I can't be completely sure, obviously, but those tracks were a direct line from the water to that site.
Damn. This could change a lot of things. You know that, right? This could really...
Oh, I'm well aware of what it could mean, and don't you dare get started on that again.
Jared, you can't keep ignoring it. Seriously, what's it going to take for you to start taking them seriously?
I do! I'm sorry, Peter. I do take threats seriously. I promise I'm not blowing it off. I just would rather focus on this right now. Plus, I need to get out to Quinault.
Okay, buddy. Just think on it, okay? Promise me that much?
I promised Peter I would do some thinking. I just didn't promise when I'd do it. I had other things on my mind. Other things that were starting to interfere with my hunt to track this creature. Things more important than threats from unseen people. I'll be honest, it's damn hard trying to not let my mind slip back to our last conversation. I feel like I'm trying to hold on to a heavy, wet rope. Hello?
Hi, Jared.
Hey, Maria. Sorry. How are you? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Listen, I don't have much time. Did you get the package I left with Brenda? She said she was going to drop it off when she saw you get home last night.
No, I didn't. I got in late. What is it?
The agreement. Jared, I need you to look at it as soon as you can, please.
Fine. I'll try to get to it this week.
I have been trying to get you to look at it for weeks now. Can you please take a little time tonight to see what you think about it? I think I'm being fair.
I'm actually on my way to Quinault right now. I'm not sure if I can get to it tonight because I don't know if I'll be home. I might end up doing an overnighter.
You need me to take care of Molly again, don't you?
Would you mind?
Damn it, Jared. You're a frustrating man.
That's why you fell in love with me. Admit it.
Among other attributes, yes.
Too bad I can't seem to remind you those attributes are still in my possession.
You're a good person. That's not the problem, you know that. Anyways, I've got to run. Please take a look at the agreement as soon as you can, okay? I'd really like to not drag this out. Be careful tonight, Jared. Bye.
The agreement Maria was referring to was something she'd had her brother, a lawyer, draft up. It seemed that our separation was quickly progressing toward an uncontested divorce, at least for Maria. I'd gotten her email of the draft 2 weeks ago and ignored it. I didn't want to think about it, didn't want to have to deal with it, and honestly didn't want it, period. I figured if I gave her time and space, she'd change her mind about this. But I was obviously wrong about how motivated she was to move on with her life. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something there, though. Some embers glowing with life. If I could just spark them, give them the oxygen they needed for her to catch fire for us, for me again. I'll start recording again when I set up in Quinault. Right now, I've got too much on my mind. I got set up a little later than I planned, but only because I stopped to meet a local at the Lake Quinault Lodge, a quaint rustic place located on a hill overlooking the water. He gave me some information about recent sightings around the famous resort spot, sandwiched between the southwest corner of the Olympic National Park and the Quinault Reservation, which runs from the lake all the way to the Pacific Ocean. This edge of the lake is hauntingly eerie. Make it a stop on your travels if you're ever out in the Pacific Northwest. If you're lucky, it'll be a rainy day. A perfect setting for a place like this, especially for those of us tracking evidence of an undiscovered primate. After that meeting, I decided I'd heard enough to make a night of it, so I followed South Shore Road to the Colonel Bob Trailhead, just east of where the Quinault River feeds the lake. This is the general area where there have been a number of mysterious sightings over the past few weeks. From what the local told me, it seems like the river is the hot spot for activity. He told me Merriman Creek would be a good place for me to start, so that's where I am now. Merriman Creek is a tributary of the Quinault River. Thanks to climate change, the creek isn't exactly bursting at the seams. It's more of a deep creek than a river now. That might explain why a Sasquatch coming down out of the Olympic Mountains might be getting more sightings. If Merriman Creek were flowing more robustly, maybe Sasquatch, if that's what we're dealing with here, might have continued to go unnoticed. But with the creek drying up from a disappointing snowfall over the past few winters, depriving it of runoff, it would be understandable that wildlife would have to extend their search for food and water. That would push desperate animals closer to the river and lake, even if that meant risking exposure to humans. Now, I'm not a fan of trout, but I couldn't fault a hungry primate if he or she were. Is it possible that was happening here? I couldn't be sure from a cursory visit, which was why I decided I needed to spend at least the night out here. Looks like it's going to be a cold night. I was kind of hoping I'd get a break, but it doesn't appear that's going to be the case. Nights like this are the reason more people aren't interested in hunting or investigating Sasquatch. It's freaking cold. I like it, though. Cold, but very peaceful. I do a lot of good thinking in times like this. About Maria, our marriage, and my passions. I do a lot of thinking about Sasquatch, too, and the people who don't understand why I do this. I've come to the conclusion that it's convenient to never challenge yourself to consider that this creature just might exist beyond Hollywood or fringe members of society who spend most of their free time on message boards talking about interdimensional travel and Bigfoot visiting for the family barbecue. It's easy for those types to get attention from the vast majority of people who don't think about or care about Sasquatch. Hell, people don't care about wildlife we can prove exists. Why would they waste any thought on one we simply haven't found substantial evidence for yet? Especially when there are bills to pay, bad economic news, and a world that's going to hell on the expressway. I get it. I really do. What I don't get are the people who assert non-existence of Sasquatch without understanding the anthropology behind it. Especially those who make claims but can't be bothered to provide evidence to support their claims, like those who insist the Patterson-Gimlin film is a man in a monkey suit but ignore all the evidence to the contrary while not bothering to back up their assertion with evidence in the first place. They act as if this is some sort of new phenomena and fail to recognize or understand that human history is littered with cultural references to strange primates crossing paths with humans. It's a weird mix, really, sandwiched in between skeptics so incredulous I could drop a living Sasquatch in their kitchen and they'd still deny its existence, all the way to people who don't believe that Homo sapiens coexisted at the same time as Neanderthals. We interbred with them and the Denisovans at points and places in our common history, but try to tell them that humans started as a small ape-like herbivorous species around 6 million years ago in Africa, and they're likely to post your personal information all over social media in order to mock you. Skeptics should get it. Many of them know zoology is littered with examples of new species finds, even large species which were thought to be extinct. The Tibetan rewalk horse, or the Vietnamese quang ox. Even Homo noleti was just discovered in a South African cave in 2015. Each year, 15,000 new species are discovered, and there are millions of different species on the planet. From a paleontological perspective, skeptics have seen a revision of hominoid evolution over the years. The Homo erectus fossils in Indonesia, dating back to as early as 27,000 years ago, or Homo floresiensis, the hobbit, because of its short stature, lived as recently as 12,000 years ago. They looked a lot like us, but also had features more closely resembling apes than humans. It shows the possible intersections on the tree of life. Homo sapiens are only 50,000 years old. Many people don't understand how insignificant that timeline is on the larger scale of life on this planet. We think we already have all the answers, while science makes new discoveries every day. We dismiss native stories as folklore. The art and cultural artifacts of indigenous people in North America depict a damned wild man with ape-like features dating back to well before Columbus decided to show his face. Sort of important when you realize there were no apes in North America at that time. The Tsimshian people had their Baouche, a word that translates to ape. The Kwakiutl tribe in British Columbia have their wild man, called Bwakwus. Hell, their ceremonial gatherings convey their history through story told by actors dressed as animals, all of which are accepted as real, including the Bwakwus or wild man. Surely he can't be singled out for exception without some sort of rational justification. On the Tule River Indian Reservation in Central California, there is a place called Painted Rock. On it, you guessed it, another wild man, this one called Sun Sanut, hairy man, a creature that stands over 8 feet tall. I mean, when we dismiss this heritage, are we not trivializing the culture and history of these people? Why? Because one hasn't fallen on our doorsteps yet? We didn't find some Amazonian tribes for years after humankind had already begun traipsing through and destroying that precious rainforest ecosystem. The Hopi, Sioux, Iroquois, Northern Athabascan, Lakota, the Ojibwe, the Colville all include a variation of the wild man in their histories. If all are wrong, then why? Because it's not our Western history? Because the people who founded this country were Europeans who were not exposed to great apes and considered them to represent all the more basic instincts and behaviors of humans? They looked at them as savage, as rudimentary beings, as lustful. Our art has demonized the great ape from the beginning. King Kong, anyone? These aren't symptoms of events in 1967, whether or not you believe the Patterson-Gimlin film is authentic. This is the prism through which every conversation about Bigfoot is viewed. What do you do when that's the starting point? That's not very skeptical behavior for self-professed skeptics, is it? Sometimes it makes you want to give up, you know? And with that, I think I'm going to call it a night. I've got a lot of hiking to do in the morning, so it'll be an early start. Sleep tight, world. The hell was that? Recorder's still running. I'm not sure what that was, for sure, but I can guess. Man, there's 2 of them. I can't believe I'm hearing this. A call and answer. I hope this damn recorder is picking them up. They sound far off. Far enough for me to safely step outside and try to get clearer audio. Damn it. They're moving away from my location. It's 3 a.m. I'm not going out there to look for them. They've got to be miles away. But at least now I know where I'll be heading in the morning. Man, that was awesome. I just hope I can get back to sleep. Whew, it's freaking freezing this morning. I packed up camp about an hour ago, and I'm headed deeper into the Olympic National Park to hopefully find the source of those howls last night. Well, At least clues to what that was. I'm pretty confident those were two Sasquatch, but let's see what the evidence says first. So, I think I've found a clue to something. I can't be sure if this is the site of my nighttime entertainment or not, but I'm standing at the top of a slight rise on the western slope of the mountain. There's heavy underbrush on all sides of me. This part of the hill is cleared, though. Looks like maybe a small fire ravaged it years ago. It's showing signs of recovery, but there's no mature growth here, which gives me a great view of my surroundings. I've also got some nice prints here, too. Not as nice as the creek bed prints I got the other day in Forks, but there should be one or two I can cast. Though I'm not a fan of carrying those back to the truck from all the way out here. I've already taken some pictures of them and marked them on the GPS tracker. These definitely aren't of the Ray Wallace variety. No one would bother coming this far out into the Olympics to plant tracks they were hoping someone would accidentally come across, especially in a part of the world where those tracks could be washed away in an instant. And I'm not inclined to believe those calls last night were human, owl, or coyote. I'll have them analyzed when I get back. The howls and footprints are great, but they're not all I found. I found hair samples. I'm not sure what they belong to. I'm not attributing it to Sasquatch, though it is consistent with other finds that have proven inconclusive. Peter has a friend I can send this sample to when I get back to Tumwater. Hopefully she'll be able to tell me something about who it belongs to, or what it belongs to. I've got a long hike back, and honestly, I need to get some answers on these things before I continue my investigation. I'm not sure what I'm going to discover, if anything, from these samples, but before I come out again, I need to do some clarifying or some eliminating. There are way too many things lining up here, falling into place alongside my hunch, and I've got to make sure I'm at least on the right course before I convince myself that I am. There's no room to get sloppy here.
I want to thank everybody for their download and listen of this show and for your support, for the Patreon support, and for each one of you who takes the time to leave a rating and review. I cannot tell you how important that stuff is. Speaking of patrons and those wonderful people who do support me, I would like to welcome Glenn to the family of Subjects Found and Diary of a Madman and anything else I create in the future. Glenn, I really appreciate your support, and welcome, Glenn, and long may our wonderful relationship continue. And of course, thank you to all of my patrons. You make this all possible. It is so humbling and absolutely wonderful. Thank you. I would also like to thank John McClain, Heather Auden, and Mike Kennedy for their incredible voice talents, along with Simon Croft and Yin vs. Yang for allowing me to use their music. You can find Simon Croft at soundcloud.com, Simon Croft Music, and Yin vs. Yang, soundcloud.com/Ian vs. Yang. If you have a few bucks to spare, go buy one of the songs from these very talented musicians who provide their art to me for free so that we can bring you the best storytelling we possibly can. I really appreciate what they do for me. There will be one more episode of Subject Found before we hit the holiday season, so be looking for episode 5, the halfway point of the season, to come out on the 18th of December. At that point, I will be taking a holiday break and probably a break from writing for a little bit, and we will be coming back on the 8th of January. If you like this show, please consider leaving a rating and review on all of the podcatchers you can, especially those 5 stars. With a sentence or two about why you love the show, it helps immensely. Also, if you have $1 or $2 to spare, I would appreciate your patronage over at patreon.com/Paul Sading, PaulSating. There are multiple benefits for patrons, including early release, exclusive content, interviews, things like that, additional episodes of Diary of a Madman, but also, if I hit my next Patreon goal of $250 an episode, I'll actually start releasing short stories to my patrons only. The first one I already have in the queue, ready to go. It's called Salt and Pepper. It's an LGBTQ love story. It was a lot of fun to write. Short story. I'd love to share it with folks. Get me to that goal and we can do that. For those of you who wanted to know what the important message was that I wanted to share at the end of this episode, I'm looking for help. I have a friend in audio drama, Lane Lloyd, over at the Sable Podcast, who has started a fundraiser where he is going to do some special things for his fans and ask for them in return to donate to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a leading organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning young people between the ages of 13 and 24. It's an absolutely wonderful charity to give to. When Lane announced it, he asked for help from the audio drama community. I, myself, have gay and lesbian loved ones and friends. And his project, if you will, his drive, really just hit a personal mark with me. So I want to jump in on that. Lane is still running it. What I'm asking of anybody who hears this, if you donate $5 or more to the Trevor Project through Lane's donation drive, I'm going to send you your very own subject found bookmark. Now, I know it's not worth $5, but this will come out of my heart to you as a small way, as a small gesture to say thank you to you for doing something kind for someone else and really supporting a great cause. How can you find out more information? Go over to sablepod.wordpress.com/sable-donates. I will put the link in the show notes. He has a link in his blog write-up, so you can just find that, scroll down and find that. But he also read the blog. It's a great blog. Really helps you understand why he's doing what he's doing. Important work. So please, I ask each and every one of you to consider that. I will gladly send out all the bookmarks I have, if that means all of you who download the show donate. So it would be great. It would be appreciated. It's important work. I thank you for it. Again, the next episode comes out on the 18th of December, and then you will not hear from me again until the 8th of January. In the meantime, if you haven't listened to Diary of a Madman, that might be a neat way to fill in a little bit of your time in between episodes. I'm currently jamming right along on the writing of Season 2 for Subject Found. I finished the 6th episode this morning, started the 7th. I got about 1,100 words into that one. So it was really neat. And I really liked where the story's going. It actually took a twist on me today. So it was pretty cool. All right, folks. That's enough about this stuff. Look for all that stuff. Check out the show notes for the link to Lane's blog article where you can donate to the Trevor Project. Send me a screenshot of your donation of $5 or more to pulsatingproductions@gmail.com, and I will get that bookmark out to you right away. Thank you for your download and listen, and of course, as always, thank you to my patrons for making this all possible.